Oh yeah.
Rubes, come to me for your magic opinions because you can't think for yourselves. I'm War Crimes Uwu, here for StevensvilleGamers, and today we are talking about the Amonkhet Remastered spoilers. Which cards are sort of getting sneakily added to Arena alongside the Amonkhet Remastered set. Now, this Amonkhet Remastered set This Amonkhet Remastered set is a combination of the sets Amonkhet and Hour of Devastation, which were on Arena during the beta and were removed. They're legal in Pioneer. These cards are all going to be legal in Historic. And as you'll see, they're adding some pretty powerful modern cards to Historic, which makes me excited for the possibility that Arena will eventually experience the modern format. So yeah, I think we'll go ahead and get right into it. A couple of things of note. Just like we kind of thought, no important Amonkhet cards were removed. They removed some cards that were already legal in Historic because they'd been reprinted in other places, and then a couple of like draft chaff commons that wouldn't have seen play anyway. So you're not missing anything from the original Amonkhet set really here. So we're not gonna go over that. If you know what's in the Amonkhet set and you played during that time, you know it's there. What we're really here to talk about is the cards that sort of got snuck in. Now, we're not sure if these cards are going to be available in the actual set themselves, or if they're just going to be added through some other means. Maybe you obtain them strictly with wild cards, which would kind of suck, or there'll be an anthology that comes in alongside, which would be fine. There's a lot of different ways that these could get added, but essentially, it's a lot of modern cards, and then some like modern cards that are also good historic cards. Let's jump right into it and just start dissecting these, what place they might have in the meta, and what they might mean for the future of Arena. The first are two white cards, one of which is legal in Pioneer and one of which is not. Rest in Peace is 1 and a white for an enchantment. When Rest in Peace enters the battlefield, exile all cards from all graveyards. If a card or token would be put into a graveyard from anywhere, exile it instead. Popular modern card. I think popular Pioneer card as well. Very useful against graveyard decks. Just a really, really all-around, generally good card. This will be nice to have if any graveyard combo decks sort of get out of control in Historic. But if you're not playing against a graveyard deck, it's obviously not worth the card. And it is symmetrical because it affects you too. So this is the kind of card that's very fair and only really comes in to sort of put a lid on more degenerate decks. So good that this will be part of the equation. Now, next we've got Wrath of God. Now, this is the Masterpiece version. It's been said that these cards that were Masterpieces in Amonkhet are going to get added with their Masterpiece art, but with the original frame, and hopefully text, because these fake hieroglyphics are impossible to read. But Wrath of God is actually a modern card, not a Pioneer card, and it is 2 and double white for a sorcery. Destroy all creatures that can't be regenerated. So this is a 4-mana board wipe, which Historic has technically had access to in the form of Shatter the Sky, which can sometimes draw one or both players a card, or Storm's Wrath, which was just 4 damage to everything, so it couldn't kill things with more than 4 toughness. This is the first straight 4-drop board wipe that we've had in Historic, so I think this card would be pretty powerful in Historic. I think control decks will want it. It's we've got Wrath of Kaya, which is double white, double black, but now you have, if you're not playing white or if you're not playing black, you can still have that 4-drop board wipe. So Wrath of God is a good inclusion to see here, and I'm pretty happy with its presence in this set. Assuming that they'll be relatively easy to obtain. If these are just in the draft format, that would be awesome because I do plan to draft quite a bit of Amonkhet Remastered when it comes out, and maybe I'll do some on stream if I can get my computer to behave. So in terms of blue cards, we've got 2 of those as well. We've got Jace, Unraveler of Secrets, which is actually from Innistrad, Return to Innistrad. I forgot the actual name of the set. Shadows over Innistrad. That's the one. It's 3 and double blue for a Planeswalker, legendary Planeswalker he is now. 5 loyalty, +1, scry 1 and draw a card. -2, return target creature to its owner's hand, and -8, you get an emblem with whenever an opponent casts his or her first spell each turn, counter that spell.
Subscribe to StevensvilleGamers, my dudes.
This Planeswalker never really saw much standard play. It's an odd inclusion to me, and it's one that sort of makes me feel like maybe this is not intended to add powerful modern cards to Arena, because this is obviously not a modern card. They could have added like Jace the Mind Sculptor or something here. Not that I think that they would do that this early when we don't even have like Bolt or Path or anything. But Jace is going to be a historic card, Jace Unraveler Secrets. I don't see a world where this sees much play, so I'm not really, I'm not going to be advocating for like people to test this out. I don't think it's very good, but it's there, I guess. You can exchange a Mythic Wild card for this. This almost feels like a Planeswalker deck Planeswalker. Like, I mean, if it weren't for the fact that it could minus to actually kind of deal with a creature, nah. This card's not very good. But Pact of Negation, that was not a Pioneer card, and it is a modern card. It sees quite a bit of modern play in the combo decks that plan to win in one turn. It's a 0-mana counterspell, but at the beginning of your next upkeep, you have to pay 3 and double blue. If you don't, you lose the game. So the main niche that this has seen play in is decks that want to win on one turn, and they play this to protect themselves. So, like, let's say they're comboing out, and they think you have an answer. They hold up this Pact of Negation. You play your answer. They counter it with Pact of Negation for free. They don't have to use their mana and disrupt their combo. And then they win on that turn, so they don't care about having to pay the 3 and double blue on the next turn. Interesting include here. It's worth noting it can also see play in control decks where, like, maybe you want to drop your Planeswalker on turn 5, but you need to be able to counter their spell on their turn, so you drop your Teferi or whatever, you untap your 2 lands, and then your opponent goes, you Pact of Negation whatever they play. You still have 2 mana up to do whatever with, maybe counter a second spell or, like, draw some cards. And then when it comes around to your turn, you pay your 5, you play your new land, you plus Teferi again, untap, and then you have 3 mana to keep countering their spells. So it's sort of another way to play your threat in a control deck on turn 5 while also being able to leave up a way to counter their spells. So you just, like, maintain complete control of the game. I think it'll be an interesting card. I wonder if it'll see play in those scenarios in the decks where you're playing 5-drop Teferi in Historic. And if it does, I think that might create some kind of unfun gameplay. Maybe we need some strong creatures that can't be countered or whatever, but I don't know. So Pact of Negation is going to be a part of Arena now. Again, we're not sure how you redeem for these cards, if there's going to be some special event, or if it's going to be an anthology, or if they're just going to go in the set. If they're just going to go in the set, that's a lot of Mythics. People are going to need a lot of Mythic Wild cards to fill out their collections of these sets, because a lot of these cards are getting bumped up to Mythic for this purpose. So yeah, let's go on into the black cards. Demonic Pact is an odd choice to me. Of course, you know, right next to it is the sort of elephant in the room, the card that everybody's talking about getting added, but we're going to talk about Demonic Pact first. It's 2 and double black for an enchantment. At the beginning of your upkeep, choose one that hasn't been chosen. Demonic Pact deals 4 damage to target creature or player, and you gain 4 life. I think that's 4 damage to any target now. And you gain 4 life. Target opponent discards 2 cards, draw 2 cards, you lose the game. So you pay 4 mana for it. You get to do these 3 cool modes, either a removal spell or draining your opponent for 4, and you gain 4 life. Mind Rot, Divination, you know, this is like 4 cards of advantage and like some life gain and removal, like crazy for 4 mana. But after you do those 3 options, the next option that you have left to pick is lose the game. So you have to, the idea behind this card is either you have to find a way to get yourself out of the Demonic Pact by destroying the enchantment, or sacrificing the enchantment or something, or you have to win the game off of the back of those 3 effects. Now, what people would do with this was they would pair it with a card called Harmless Offering, which was 1 in a red to just give your opponent one of your permanents. And then what you would do is you would exhaust the 3 good options, the removal spell, the Mind Rot, and the Divination, and then you would pass it to your opponent with Harmless Offering, with the only option left being lose the game, and they would have to pick lose the game. And then they would lose the game. So Demonic Pact was never really played in a fair sense. People never really played this card in decks that could, in decks that were like trying to win before they got to the lose the game trigger. They would only play it in decks where you tried to give Demonic Pact to your opponent or destroy the enchantment, as you would. You can also blink Demonic Pact, and it stops keeping track of which modes you've chosen yet. So if you blink Demonic Pact, you get to pick the 3 good modes again. So there's a lot of versatility in that card. I'm excited to see if it sees any play in Arena, what kind of play it'll see. So yeah, I think it's an interesting addition. But again, if they were trying to just add powerful modern cards, I think there would be other things they would add before Demonic Pact. But we do also have Thoughtseize. Now, Thoughtseize is a classic modern card and one that is not legal in Pioneer, to the thankfulness of some Pioneer players. Interesting that it'll be historic legal, and this is the number one card. This and one of the green cards that we'll get to in a minute is like the number one card that makes me feel like they're just trying to slowly add modern to Arena. So Thoughtseize is a black for a sorcery. Target player reveals his or her hand. You choose a non-land card from it. That player discards that card. You lose 2 life. So basically, this is the most versatile one-drop discard spell. In terms of looking at your opponent's hand and forcing them to discard something, because this can discard literally any non-land card, and you just lose 2 life, which in most cases is a bit of a downside. But of course, if you're playing Death Shadow, which isn't on Arena, but in paper, if you're playing Death Shadow, you know, the losing 2 life is an upside. It makes your Death Shadow have +2/+2. So Thoughtseize is a powerful card. Everybody knows that. Whether this ends up getting banned from Historic is pretty up in the air. Historic Jund gets a great new toy with this. Historic Mono Black Devotion sometimes has trouble deciding what to do on turn 1. And if this takes the place of Gutter Bones, which I do not at all doubt that it would, I think Historic Mono Black Devotion might be in a much better place for having this. Any deck is in a much better place for having this. It's Thoughtseize is the kind of card that I would expect to see alongside like Bolt and Path, and like Birds of Paradise, like the really good 1-drops for the other colors. Maybe Delver for blue, I guess, or Spell Snare. I don't know. Blue doesn't have as good of a like game-defining 1-drop. But yeah, Thoughtseize is the kind of card I'd expect to see around those other busted modern cards. So it's weird that it's sort of coming to Arena first, especially when they decided to remove Path to Exile from the Arena version of Jumpstart, which didn't make a lot of sense to me, just because like it doesn't seem that broken. And now that they're giving us Thoughtseize, it seems especially like a strange decision. But this card gives me some hope that we will see modern on Arena. Not much else to say about it. Every black deck is better in a format with Thoughtseize. Red cards. We didn't see Bolt, unfortunately. But here we've got Anger of the Gods, which is 1 and double red. Anger of the Gods deals 3 damage to each creature. If a creature dealt damage this way would die this turn, exile it instead. It's one more mana than Pyroclasm for 1 more damage, and it exiles. This card sees pretty extensive modern play in control decks, in the sort of the Titan Shift decks that, you know, you don't really play any small creatures other than the Sakura Tribe Elder, which you can sack easily. And this is sort of your board wipe in the early game to make sure that you can get to the stage of the game that you can win. So Anger of the Gods, pretty classic card. Card is already legal in Pioneer, and it sees play in Pioneer and Modern. So, you know, this is another modern card they're adding to Arena. I don't want to get too hopeful, but maybe that means something. And then we've got Chandra Pyromaster, who I think is from a core set. This is the reprint from Archenemy Bolus, which was sort of a supplemental like board game type product. But it's 2 and double red for a legendary planeswalker, Chandra, with 4 loyalty when it comes in. Now her +1 deals 1 damage to target player and 1 damage to up to 1 target creature that player controls. That creature can't block this turn, so decent aggro tool. Her 0 is exile the top card of your library. You may play it this turn, so some sort of card advantage. A la light up the stage. -7, exile the top 10 cards of your library. Choose an instant or sorcery card exiled this way and copy it 3 times. You may cast the copies without paying their mana cost. So in the top 10 cards of your library, you get an extra turn spell. You know, you take 3 extra turns, or you get a bolt and you deal 9 damage divided in 3s. Pretty powerful ult. But, you know, you don't judge a planeswalker by its ult, and this Chandra can't actually deal with things coming at it. It can't protect itself, so it's never seen very much play. The virtual card advantage is fine. The aggro tool with the +1, like you deal damage to them, and you either kill a little creature or you stop a creature from blocking. Like, that's fine. But just by virtue of it not... Like, it generates a little card advantage, but it can't protect itself, and it pluses slowly. Like, this card is just not super good. Weird to see included here, but whatever. I would much rather have seen... Well, I guess they're going to give us Chandra Tortured Defiance in Kaladesh Remastered or whatever, but I would much rather have seen a different Planeswalker here. Shatterstorm. 2 and double red, destroy all artifacts that can't be regenerated. So this is sort of the mirror to Wrath of God. Classic card. There's a green version of this card as well that I used to play in Mono Green Devotion back when Affinity was super big in Modern. So this is just the red version of that. You know, if you're playing a red deck that's not trying to aggro your opponent out and Affinity is big, which they haven't added any Affinity cards to Arena other than, you know, like Steel Overseer and stuff, which, I mean, those Steel Overseer decks that play like Steel Overseer, the Gingerbread guy, they play Stonecoil Serpent. Shatterstorm is really good against those decks, or would be really good against those decks. Like, you whip out a Shatterstorm, and you just kill all their creatures. That's kind of great. That's what you want to be doing for 4 mana, so I'm happy to see this here if those decks get out of control. No really powerful artifacts, to my knowledge, are getting added with this set, so I don't think Shatterstorm is answering anything that would become a problem, but it's good to have there as sort of a safety valve, because this isn't going in the main board of any decks, but this is there for us if any artifact decks get a little bit too froggy. So that's Shatterstorm. The red cards are a little bit more lackluster than some of the other colors. Now we're talking about my favorite color, green, and boy, is this a doozy. Collected Company is a Modern staple. It spawned a lot of decks as soon as it came out. It's 3 and a green for an instant. Look at the top 6 cards of your library. Put up to 2 creature cards with converted mana cost 3 or less from among them onto the battlefield. Put the rest on the bottom of your library in any order. So at instant speed, you get, a Reflector Mage, bounce your opponent's creature, they can't cast it, and an Eternal Witness to return the Collected Company to your hand, to immediately play again next turn. You get Renegade Rallier to also return a Wall of Omens, and you get a Voice of Resurgence, and this is all at instant speed, so then if they were attacking, you can block with the Voice of Resurgence and immediately get a token. Just so many possibilities with this card. Now, not all these cards are on Arena. In fact, many of the best ones are not on Arena, like Eternal Witness or Voice of Resurgence. This is a lot more powerful in Modern than it would be in any other format, and the power of this card in Pioneer largely comes from the really good cheap creatures that came out in the Shadows over Innistrad block, which is also not on Arena, and you know, things like Filigree Familiar from the Kaladesh block, which is, again, also not on Arena. So it's a little bit awkward to figure out what you're going to Coco into on Arena, but I'm excited to play Coco on Arena. I'm going to figure it out. I'm going to make this deck work. You know, I've been tossing around some ideas with some friends. I like the idea of a sort of mono green Coco list, where you Coco into Yorvo and Steel Leaf Champion, and Guruk's Harbinger. And I also like a few other ideas I've heard tossed around of a sort of Abzan Coco Aristocrats list. There's a lot of possibilities with this card. This card's incredibly strong, and it's been viable in a lot of different formats. Very, very strong card. People were talking about banning it from Standard when it existed there. So this and Thoughtseize are my 2 pieces of evidence that maybe they're trying to slowly add Modern to Arena. And I think it'd be really cool if that were the case. The other card is Hornet Queen, which is, I mean, it's good and limited. It's 4 and triple green for a 2/2 insect with flying and death touch. And when it enters the battlefield, you create 4 1/1 green insect creature tokens with flying and death touch. Save the bees. Hornet Queen is pretty strong if you can get her out. Like, obviously, it's a great card in limited, but it just doesn't see play in any like real constructed formats because, you know, a board wipe will get rid of all the little dudes. You can just kill her with some removal, and then like it can be hairy if your opponent doesn't have a board wipe, or little dudes to trade. But it is 7 mana, so it's just not super great. Maybe there's a way to like blink it. But yeah, there's just better things to reanimate in every format. Like, it's just not a super great card. But it's here. People might find a way to make it work in like a blink sort of cheesy deck. It's good and limited. You know, so if these cards do end up being draftable, Hornet Queen is going to be awesome to pick because if you get to 7 mana and limited with this, you often win. Yeah, you get 5 flying death touch bodies, which is 5 things that can trade with literally anything for 7 mana, and that's just pretty good. So the main sort of draw of this card is for limited. If it ends up in the cube, it'll be a good pick there. But Collected Company is the prize green card getting added. So we've got Now just a couple multicolored cards and one artifact to go over, and then we'll be done with this list of cards being added to Arena. So Lord of Extinction, I love this art from the Amonkhet masterpieces. I think it's way cooler than the original art. Not that the original art was bad; it was fine. But this card is not super great, despite how impressively big it can get. It's 3, a black, and a green. Lord of Extinction's power and toughness are each... Oh, it's an elemental. Lord of Extinction's power and toughness are each equal to the number of cards in all graveyards. So this will often be big enough to just kill someone on its own. It's not uncommon for there to be 30 plus cards in graveyards total by the time you get to turn 5. Or by the time you... Especially, like, if someone's playing the right deck. So Lord of Extinction is certainly a big creature, but it doesn't have any kind of evasion. It can get chumped for days. It can get removed very easily. So I just don't see this seeing a lot of play. It's obviously pretty great in limited. It'll just be a 5-mana like 12/12 a lot of the time. So you're gonna want to take it in limited, but in any other format, it's not great. It's not gonna be worth the Mythic Wild card. Now, Sphinx's Revelation is a different story. This card sees, or at least saw, like it's kind of been replaced by more efficient card advantage engines. But Sphinx's Revelation used to see a lot of play in Modern Control because you would leave up a lot of mana on your opponent's turn, so you could bolt their stuff, counter their spells, remand, whatever else. And then if you didn't have to do any of that, you would rip a huge Sphinx's Revelation when you had like 10 mana. So it's X, a white, and double blue for an instant. You gain X life and draw X cards. This card's really strong, like, in those Teferi decks, maybe, where you are passing the turn with, like, 9 lands up, Sphinx's Revelation, you draw 6 cards and gain 6 life on the end of your opponent's turn, and you've basically won the game. Even just casting this for 5 to draw 2 and gain 2 when you're in a pinch and you don't have anything else valuable to do, like, still doesn't feel awful, but just the fact that every single mana equals a card after a certain point with this is just kind of insane, and the life gain is just incidentally really nice. This is the card that sort of seals the deal in a lot of matchups with Control. Like, you play the Sphinx's Rev, and the mid-range deck just has no more way to outvalue you. So it's kind of scary that Blue-White got such a good tool when Blue-White and Historic is already a pretty strong color combination between, the Teferi, 5-drop Teferi, the 3-drop Teferi is banned. But between 5-drop Teferi and all of the good white and blue removal spells, Narset, Sphinx's Revelation is just a really powerful card in that case. It's going to be fun in the mirror match, watching your opponent forget that you have a Narset out and go for Sphinx's Revelation and just like gain 7 life for 10 mana. That's going to be pretty fun to watch, but I don't know how often that'll happen exactly. But yeah, Sphinx's Revelation's a cool card. Perilous Vault. I don't really know what's going on here. It's a 4-drop artifact from M15. It's a mythic. I honestly completely forgot it existed. 5 and tap, exile Perilous Vault, exile on online permanence. I can't recall a format this saw play in. It seems like a worse version of Oblivion Stone. Technically, it does exile permanents instead of destroying them, but it's more expensive, and it doesn't give you any mechanism by which to protect your permanents. The strong thing about Oblivion Stone is you could pay some mana and tap it to put a fate counter on your own, like Karn or Emrakul or whatever. Probably not Emrakul. You probably already won the game if you had Emrakul out, but you could put a fate counter on your own, like Karn, and then when you crack the O Stone, everything but your Karn would be destroyed, and you could, keep plussing your Karn or whatever. Perilous Vault doesn't offer that flexibility. It's a pretty bad board wipe. It's 4 and then 5. It's Nevinyrral's Disc, but much more expensive. So Perilous Vault I don't think is exactly the all-star here. Some of these mythics are just going to feel bad if these cards are available in draft. But I think overall these cards that are getting added are really strong. But yeah, let me know what you guys think in the comments. Which of these cards are you excited for? Do you think they're slowly trying to add Modern to Arena? Which of these cards are you dreading being added? Which cards do you think they should have added? What are you most excited about in Amonkhet Remastered? Head down to the comments section and let us know. I have been Warcrimes Uwu here for StevensvilleGamers. You can find me on my Twitch at Warcrimes Uwu, or you can find me on the podcast Gutshot with Aggressive Rhetoric, which comes out weekly on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, GeoCities, several other websites, and you can let us know what you think about our Magic the Gathering hot takes. We release an episode every Sunday, so if you want to go ahead and check that out, that would be greatly appreciated. But otherwise, thank you for watching, and tune in again next time when I give you some more Magic news. Goodbye.